Hey guys, welcome to another voiceover tutorial. Today I will be sketching and shading hair for you guys and pretty much just walking you through my process and what kind of goes through my head as I'm doing this. I'll put up the reference picture that I'm using here and I'll also link it in the description for you guys if you want to try it out as well. Also, I hope the quality of this video is going to be okay. I am still figuring out what's the best way to record myself, so I'm sort of just testing between my webcam and my camera at the moment, but hopefully this is okay. Alright, so to start off with, I'm just sketching a rough head shape. I'm not going to be going into detail with any facial features in this one, just because I'm going to be focusing mainly on the hair. So I'm just doing a rough shape of the head so that I have something to work off. And I'm going to speed this up in just a second, but first I want to show you guys this little video I made, just to show you guys what I'm kind of looking for when I look at a reference image in terms of where I'm going to place the hair, because sometimes it can be a little overwhelming because there can be so much hair and you don't really know where to start. So what you want to do, or what I do when I look at a reference image and I'm drawing hair, I don't look at the whole head of hair as one piece. Just try to really break it up into sections and work a little bit at a time so you don't get overwhelmed. So here I'm just showing you some of the sections that I can see when I look at this image, and that's kind of what I'll be working off. So now I'm just going in and I'm going to sketch those sections that I just mentioned. And I'm just doing it really lightly and kind of messily. You don't have to be too perfect. I kind of like the sketchy look anyway, so I'm just kind of creating the overall shape and making sure I'm happy with that before I move on to the next step of detailing. And honestly, if you want, after this step, you can just sort of define your lines and that can be it. I sort of go between really liking a minimalist sketching or shading style, I should say, and then also doing more detailed shading. So in this one, I do shade a little bit more detailed. But honestly, at different points of this video, you could just stop there. Just do whatever or however much shading and detailing you like. Because I find with hair sometimes as well, you can definitely over detail it and put like too many hair strands and it can just start to look a little bit messy. And I think when people are starting out, sometimes they look at hair and they're like, oh, that looks so scary because there's so many little like details and strands and I have to draw all of them. You don't have to draw all of them. And I think it looks better when you don't as well. But that's just my opinion. So now I'm just going in with this pencil that I got from Daiso. It's got like a rectangular shaped lead, and I'm just sort of going over the areas that need some dark shading, and I'm also defining the shapes of the hair and creating some of the hair strokes. And I'll just be going in between using that rectangular shaped pencil and my 0.3, but you can use whatever you have. I just quite like that thick rectangular shaped one because you can cover a lot of area quite fast because it is so thick, instead of something like a 0.3 or 0.2, which is probably better for detailing. But you can just use whatever you have. And while you're looking at your reference image, you want to sort of point out where the darkest shadows are. So I made a little video just to show you where those were on this particular image. So they were where the hair parts up here, which is pretty common. Also just where the hair is tucked in by the ear, and then these parts sort of coming over the shoulders from the back, because they're sort of underneath all the rest of the hair, so there's like a lot of shadows on those areas. So I'm just marking them in right now with that same rectangular pencil and just going over the bottom of the hair and adding in all those final shapes at the bottom. And now that I've got the main shape sort of sketched out, I can start to really go in and detail a little bit more. So now I'm just going to go in with my 0.3 and I'm going to continue to sort of define those sections that I showed you guys at the very start and continue to add little hair-like strokes. And when you're doing this, you want to be like quite fluid in your hand movements because hair is quite flowy. So you want to make quick light strokes so that it has a nice flow to it. But saying that, sometimes I do like to add in like a few sharp lines just to break it up a little bit because I personally don't like it when my art looks like too soft, if that makes sense. So it's just finding a balance and finding what you prefer in your art style. So I'm just adding these little wispy hairs on the side now, mainly with my 0.3mm for the bulk of it because my 0.2mm, I will use that near the end just for like the really fine little details. But I find that when I'm trying to sort of sketch a lot of, quite a lot of details in like a large area, I like to use my 0.3 because it's just a little bit easier. And also when I'm trying to darken lines or define my sketch, I like to use the 0.3 over my 0.2 as well because I can put more pressure on it and get like a darker tone without snapping the lead because the 0.2 is quite fine and it can snap under pressure. So I'm just going to continue looking at my reference picture and following the flow of the hair and not trying to do too much at once, just taking it little bit at a time because it can get a little bit confusing for me at least sometimes because there's just a lot going on and you're trying to make it, like I said in the beginning, when I look at the reference image I am seeing it or I'm trying to work in sections, but then you do want it to all work together and flow together as one piece in the end. So just trying to get everything sort of connected and looking like it's working together, if that makes sense. Because I have had issues with that in the past where some of the hair looks really good and then there'll just be like one strand that I've drawn that looks super out of place because it just looks like it doesn't belong. So in that case, I'd just keep erasing it and try again. And I'm just using my Needleable eraser as well to pick up some of the eraser shavings. And now what I'm doing is I'm taking my Kneadable eraser and I'm just lightening some areas where I think I went a tiny little bit too overboard with the shading, but that's fine because yeah, the Kneadable eraser, it's super quick and easy because it can cover such a large space at once. So I'm just lightly dabbing that around, and once I'm happy with that, I'm going in over the top of those areas that I went with the Kneadable eraser, and I'm just adding in some of the hair strokes that I erased. And we're almost at the end now. I'm just going to do some final touches, and one of my favorite things to do at the end is just add in some little flyaway hairs that sort of come off the edge of the hair like this with my 0.2mm, and I always use my 0.2mm for this because it's so fine and you can get those nice light feathery strokes. And now I'm just looking over what I've done and seeing if there's anything I can improve in the final stages. Just darkening some areas and defining some lines, and that's pretty much it. I hope you guys liked this video, and I also hope that you found it helpful. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!